Did you do it?
Yes, it's live. It's come up. Said this Hangouts on air is live.
I can't see it on your webpage.
Give it
Are
a
you
couple of
under
minutes.
Amber or Melanie?
The Melanie.
Yeah, there you go. It's come up now.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. We're doing a round table tonight. We have Bob, Burma, Captain, Magi, and myself, and we may be joined by ICU2 soon. Tonight we're going to talk about, is religion important, as well as anything else we think to talk about. So we're just going to have a general chat and you guys can listen. So welcome to the live stream, and I'd like to start off about talking about, is religion important, and what we each think about that topic. So if we start off with Bob, what do you think? Is religion important?
Absolutely. I think it's the foundation of unification. Definition of religion is quite broad to different people depending on culture and upbringing. And going with the definition of the dictionary doesn't do it justice. Fundamentally, I believe religion is the first step of becoming a cohesive tribe, where you start working for the collective good, being represented by a deity that is overseeing, protecting, being wrathful, being benevolent. You've got your droughts, you've got your harvests where you've got abundance. So it represents unification in its central theme. However, what we've seen is that structure has been utilized to control a lot of minds and ideologies, to the extent where people are going and killing other people in the name of the same God that they're trying to appease. Did I answer the question? Did I do it wrong?
No, you did. You absolutely answered the question.
Is there going to be a prize after?
There might be.
Yeah, right.
Free years supply of nylon socks.
Socks.
We know you're excited.
What do you think, Burma?
Oh, you had to go to me next. Well, I think we should make a distinction between religion and spirituality. That's just my take on that, because is religion important? I think that it depends for the individual and where they're at on their path. For me at one time, religion was very important. I think it's good to look in all aspects of different religions and do your research on them before you jump right in. For myself, and I can only speak for my own path, but I went and did a lot of research, which brought me to being a spiritual person. That doesn't mean that I don't believe in scripture or believe in what that says. I absolutely take what I need and then go on my path from there. So that would be my take. Is it short, sweet, to the point? That's good, right? Good? All right, on.
It is good. What do you think, Captain?
Well, religion itself, I don't believe the religion itself is important. The spirituality that's in it and information that's in them, I believe that's the important part of it. So I think it's a yes and a no answer. The type of hurting people, using it to control the herd, so to speak, or the masses. I don't like that technique and that use of it. Can it be helpful? Yes. Can it be boxing? It also can box people in if you're just looking at one, one spiritual aspect of things. And um, I believe one can get further if they dig into different spiritualities and keep an open mind and see some of the similarities that exist between them.
Yeah, I agree. And what about you, Magi?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely important. I think that it's like a kindergarten or your schoolmaster for most people, whether it be the fundamental religions or tribal. I also think if you look hard enough that you'll see that they're all connected and it's really all just one religion. If you look deep enough, I think you'll see the commons in now the social structure and the I think that's where the difference is. That's where the diversion starts. When you see the communal laws and the dogma and the letter of the law and those type things. But I think the underlying meaning is in every religion that I've ever looked at, tribal, fundamental, Middle Eastern, Western. I think the connections are there if we look. But yeah, I think it's very important.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of commonalities between all the religions. But I think the commonalities are more easily seen by those who don't subscribe to any one religion, like the people who are fundamentalists and subscribe to their orthodoxy. It seems they're more taught not to see the commonalities and to believe that their version is right above all the others.
I agree with you. I think that's what I mean. The political and the letter and the laws, the way they're laid out. Personally, I think they're progressive. So everybody's, like Captain said, they're locked in that old box.
Excuse me, sir,
afraid to move on.
Magi, can you mute the Hangouts thing?
Yeah, mute myself.
No, just on the Hangouts because you're going through Discord.
Should I just log out of Discord? Is that what you're saying?
No. Stay on Discord, but on Hangouts, I think the echo is coming in.
Yeah, but if he mutes Hangouts, the people watching a live stream won't hear him.
That's right. Yeah, I thought of that after.
Yeah, that might have been me. I had a different device using Discord.
Okay.
Am I still echoing?
You're not echoing for me, but I can only hear you through one thing.
No, I hear you fine, Magi. You're not echoing for me at all.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, Magi.
No, I was going to say I was repeating myself basically, but I do agree. I think the politics and the communal setups, the laws, I do think they do cling to those, and I think that's where the diversion starts. Yeah, I do agree with that.
And I agree it's about mind control.
Well, it's also fear-based. It's also majorly some of it's majorly fear-based. I think that, just like we can manifest things with good energy, negative can also, fear-based can also manifest as well. So, I mean, people need to take a look at that not to be fear. If you're being fear-based, it's probably not the right place for anybody to be, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, see, I wasn't interested in religion before, but I am now because I find it fascinating to see what Magi's talking about the interconnectedness of all the religions and where they stemmed from. But also, the more I'm learning about the religiosity of our elites, we've got elites all over the world from different religious factions who really seem, at least it's claimed, factions that really do believe in their ideologies. They do believe these gods exist. They're going to, Bohemian Grove and worshipping in front of 40-foot owl. So they do believe in all of these things. So in order for us to understand their mindsets, would you agree that it's important that we therefore need to understand their ideologies?
At least have a certain base for it. You know what I mean? Like, how can you understand anything if you don't actually study it to some degree, right? That's the only way you're going to understand. I although I don't think that, I think people have to be careful how much they immerse themselves in certain things, you know, because you can, I think from, like I said, for myself, when you just like, and of course, Magi has done so much more research into religions, but just even doing very little, you know, here and here and here, and reading and taking the information that you need and then putting it together for yourself. Because basically, how can anybody, how can we say, or say for me to you, how could I tell you how it is when your perception and your whole life are different than mine? So that right there makes it totally different for each one of us, right? Did I go off topic a little bit? But you know what I mean? Like, do you understand what I mean by that? So I think maybe...
I think that's an important point, because we have to understand, for many people who are born into a religious family, there aren't any options. You get integrated in the religion from birth, and at some point there might be some rebellion, or it might work out fine for you, depending on the state of the mind of the individual, and if they want to get out of that paradigm, or they're quite happy and joyful while they're there. So it's different when you meet someone who is searching for a religion in adulthood versus someone who has been indoctrinated in a religion at that point. So same age, different individuals. You've got both personality factors, and you've got your environmental. So you've got nurture and nature coming together in one of the biggest societal glues that we have in recorded history. There's a lot of historic element associated with the religion, so it's not a single aspect that, yes, this is my God and this is what I'm dreaming. It affects your diet, it affects your work, it affects your schooling, how you raise your children, how you choose your partner, what kind of social activities that you have, who are you allowed to talk to and not to talk to. So you know, at the surface it might seem more simplistic to wrestle than all the different facets that impacts religion.
Yeah.
Well,
Have you got anything to add, Captain Magi?
I was going to ask him if he would go ahead and elaborate on a little more on the unity and diversity, how the diversity is actually, you know, beautiful.
Well, I think that's the key point. I think that's where humanity is right now. Initially, when it wasn't such a connected world, the religions manifesting in different parts of the world, they had practical applications based on the laws that was established, as well as being contained, isolated in a particular part of the world. There have been empires, there have been the crusades and the jihads, and the going back and forth, but that was after time had passed and the globe started to get smaller. As we keep getting smaller in distance for as far as communications related, and in the world, uh, we finding that there's a lot of diversity amongst everybody. Um, Religion is progressive, as is science, if you want to talk about the divinity aspect of it and the rules that they implement. So, not saying, for example, science of 2000 years ago was incorrect, but you wouldn't apply it in the same way today as you did um, when it was originally uh, the top science of that era. So, having gone through all combinations of trying to interact, whether it was through a massive empire that allowed the monarchy of the countries it had conquered to stay in power, trying to unify, to uh, the later ambitions in World War II of Germany wanting to start dominating the entire world. There seems to be uh, a necessity for cohesiveness, a drive for us to unify entire humanity. The problem being is when you want to start segmenting different races and cultures and give them intrinsic values, where we're all equal, we're all infinity living within infinity. You cannot gauge us in that manner, but we seem to have um, collectively created these cliques that we decide as a group if an individual is going to be welcomed or a specific type of person is allowed, like-minded people coming in. And if we want to stay with what we've done throughout history, we can't expect different results. But if we're able to see the beauty instead of the estranged aspects of another culture, we're the one who's going to get exposed to a completely new dimension. Each culture is a representative of dimension. When you get people in India and you go to them, hey, buddy, did you know I'm God? They'll look at you and smile and say, nice to meet you. Yes, and so am I. So everybody over there knows that they're God, and nobody's trying to upend anybody else. In the West, because of how the financial and economical system has been driven on reward and punishment type of a scenario, you perform or you're going to be fired, you're meeting these numbers, or you won't continue in that position. These are old paradigm, the old earth kind of a mentality where it was necessary to create some sort of a structure because communication wasn't uh, prevalent enough because of education amongst the people. So instead of allowing people to develop themselves naturally and nurture themselves through trial and error, it ended up becoming subordinate and a superior model. Uh, you cannot get unity in diversity as long as there's a sense of self-importance. And because of that economic model I spoke about, that translates to spiritual world as well. So if you become egotistical in the 3D world, you can also become egotistical in the spiritual world. My guru is smarter than your guru. I'm more altruistic than you are. I'm in service to other more than other people. And why are you service to others? Because I want to ascend. That's not really being service to others. That's just doing what you think is expected of you to get the benefits yourself. It's only when you truly stop putting focus on yourself and actively listening to somebody new coming into a conversation or your domain is where you will first get that I don't know, my gut feeling tells me this, and we don't know. It's our gut feelings aren't always accurate with certain repetitive circumstances, yes, but not when you're meeting somebody from a different culture. It might as well be an alien uh, that you're meeting. In one culture, if you put your feet up, show somebody the soles of your foot, that's worse than mooning them. So there are rules, there are traditions that have been passed down. They don't have to follow ration or logic anymore, and they are still practiced. And this is why it has to be progressive. Certain things have to be let go, not in sense of your value, but what offends you. What offends us is something that we've established in our reality, and anyone knowingly or unknowingly that infringes that becomes isolated from that unity, because they're too diverse. I can't handle that. That food is just too odd. That dance is just too much. Um, it could be anything, and it's only when we revert back to a childlike state and we're just happy to play with others without evaluating them, that's where you can make a nice inroad towards unity and diversity.
Okay, so would you agree then that religion isn't just another, or religions, not spirituality now, just religions, are they a form of tribalism?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. So
I agree.
it's understandable why we have religions, because we are a tribalistic species. But to me, one of the biggest problems is when religion has been used to control our minds and our behaviour, because it's been linked with money and with secular power.
Yeah.
Or secular power structures.
It seems like when they blend the political system, that's what I mean. Yes, they want control, they want to rule, and we've seen it. So
Yeah, it's do as I do.
yes, but there are several people in those religions that are very spiritual and have moved beyond that, is what I found. But the majority are still in the box. I agree.
Well, there's some people that believe their faith so blindly, and it's not to put that out and be mean to anybody that has faith in what they believe in. It's their walk. Their walk is very personal.
It's like they're the seeds and the others are trees, and I don't mean that on really a higher or lower level. It's the way it has to be.
Right.
It's progressive,
right,
like you said.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I see it also as the control factor. I see it a little more deeper as in the head of these churches or spiritual organizations gaining control of each individual's given energy and power, or our own God power, if you will, and help channel it through one deity or where they would like to see it channeled, and almost taking one's manifestation abilities. And on that manipulative part is where I have issues with it. But as far as the spiritual teachings that can come out of it, the changing of lives that can come out of some of these religions, it's definitely a good thing. And if you're on a spiritual path, and you're just, like I said before, just going around researching and investigating different spiritualities, it can enlighten you beyond belief on what you find.
Well, sorry to go back.
Yeah, exactly. But I find it interesting, like, that some religions don't believe in an afterlife, because to me it's one of the things that makes humans special, that we think about what's going to happen to us after death. Most humans recognize that we're more than just this physical body, at least in my culture, maybe not in every culture. And that's one of the things that makes us different from the animal kingdom. I mean, not all the animal kingdom, because you've got evidence that some animals also think about it because they bury their dead or they perform rituals with their dead. But I just find it interesting that there are some religions that don't believe in an afterlife.
You mentioned earlier on how religion is used for power, for financial gains and power. I want to suggest that's a different quality that that same tribal nature of humanity has that gets kind of bundled in with religion. A good example of it is technology. Today, technology is a religion in a lot of ways. Scientists are telling people about quantum realities and possibility of same code, computer code in the universe is being found, going closer to a holographic type of a reality, and an architect. Science is more and more coming to agreement that there's more to this reality than what big physics is able to explain and manage. So it's that need to control others. It's that need to hoard, and corruption starts to become part of that model. More and more people wanting to go for the brass ring, wanting to be on the other side of the tracks when it comes to wealth. In the meantime, we're not really being taught what true wealth is in this reality. We equate wealth with currency and money. While you give someone all the money in the world, and if their health is jeopardized, it would be very unwise to pick the money over your health issues, because you won't be able to enjoy anything. Your friends, a good conversation, someone that you can vent and get feedback from in respect to something that is challenging you in your day-to-day life, that is priceless. When you end up becoming so wealthy that you can't tell who your friends are, you have to pay someone a few $100s an hour just to listen to you talk. In that respect, we're all racking up, thousands in therapy dollars when we get into a fellowship and help each other out. So it's a old way of thinking that is on the crux of a major shift. These opportunities have been here before. The last significant one was the hippie movement back in the 60s and 70s, and that was shut down. And right now it's transmuted into a new age 5D quantum hypnosis, timeline shifting, multidimensional universe type of a reality, in respect to what is tangible. Studying quantum science and some sacred tablets from the past offer the same amount of evidence. It's not relevant what is written in the tablet or what the science is telling you. What's relevant is how it activates you. What does it enlighten you with? Does it allow you to understand others better? Does it allow you to become more compassionate to your human being in the small things, not wanting to rescue people from a major event, but to be able to smile at someone that seems like that they need a smile, to be able to consider what your group would say is crazy and just listen to the other person, and before shutting them down, hear out what they have to say and then decide if it's for you or not. So we're shifting from a world of duality to world of and more. So instead of debating a point with someone, another person can exchange what they got from what was shared. They could be talking about apples and you heard oranges. And if it applies, then where's the harm? It becomes about lexicons. Yes, I finished.
Do you think there's ever going to be a time when we won't see any more religions?
I mean, if you see a ballet dancer, they get up early in the morning, they go practice, stretch, put themselves into trials. To me, that's a form of a religion. Dancing, singing, anything that you have devotion to. In the same respect, when I see flowers on a field follow the sun rise to sunset with their faces, to me, that's worship. To me, that's a form of religion. So religion in itself isn't limited, as far as I'm concerned, to humanity. It's to a collective desire to reach beyond what they already know. And what we've been going through right now is trying to discover the things that we don't know about. And in the process, we've managed to discover about things we don't know about. And those are the real exciting revelations. Don't look so bored. Doesn't help my confidence. Keep talking.
I'm not looking bored.
No, it's great.
To me, I disagree. Yeah, it is. I disagree with you though, because to me, religion is when your worship is instructed to you, when you're following somebody else's instructions to inform you about your own spirituality. Spirituality to me is different from religion. Or it can be. Spirituality is something we've come to know on our own through life's lessons and learning and meditation. I don't see it as the same thing.
It's basically going within. You know, I always say and teach people that, you know, people are constantly trying to fill this void within themselves, right? By buying stuff and doing those type of things, when really it's a spiritual connection and they would fill up, you know what I mean? And that could be that way with religion too. They could fill up with religion as well. But I found it more with spirituality. I just think that that was, you know, that was a turning point for me. I was religious at one time. My cat really is trying to get on my lap, let me tell you. You might see the whole big eye thing.
Was that her meowing just a minute ago?
Yeah, here, look. There she is on my lap. Trying to put holes in my legs. Oh no, it's like at the computer. That's how she is. She wants to be up on my lap when I'm on the computer. She'll bother me until I let her come up. Usually she digs in as she jumps. She's huge. I mean, she's not a small cat. See,
she is. She's massive.
Oh yeah, she's big. She's a big kitty. There you go. There's this kitty share time.
So what if these gods are real? What if Yahweh is really Enlil? What if, you know, what if these gods are real? What does that say about religion, and how are they going to feel if humanity becomes increasingly secularized?
I always said, could you imagine that the gods of yesterday that they talk about, Zeus and all these people, were actually just basically demigods? They weren't the god. They were just beings that were more advanced. So then they seemed like gods because they could do certain things here.
right? I mean, I always called it Gap of the Gods for the longest time because I always thought that once that information fell away, as far as like they understood thunderstorms, so there goes Zeus, right? There goes Zeus because Zeus was that god. So I always thought it was Gap of the Gods until they came down to one thing, explaining why we're here and what's to happen after this, which is the ultimate questions. But nowadays, I kind of wonder if there wasn't a little bit more to that story back in the day, if there was beings that actually came here and they were looked as in gods. And I mean, you look at all the depictions on all the, you know, whether they're, you know, hieroglyphics or those type of things that depict many different cultures. So is it possible? Sure. Who knows? Was that totally off topic?
No, that's what I was asking. I mean, what if the Anunnakis were real and are real, whether they left or not? You know, what if they actually did come here and they did create us by hybridizing with Homo erectus or a similar hominid? How are they going to feel? What if they did go away and then Nibiru comes back and they see a lot of humanity is no longer worshipping them?
Sorry about that.
Or is that buying into the fear again?
She just grabbed into my thing and almost ripped them out of my ears, jumping off my lap. I don't know. I mean, like, don't you think that if they were here and they would already know that, well, I guess if Planet X, right, is their system coming back in to see if we're still worshiping from all the depictions that are here and stuff like that, I don't know. Maybe they would have to think that we've evolved past it, right? Evolved past to needing such a demigods to explain things to us. You know, science has caught up to that kind of thing, I guess. I don't know. I mean, what does anybody else think? Somebody else talk now.
I was just going to say, what if these founders of the religions are a manifestation of those? They knew it would be progressive. If you look at it, it looks progressive. If you go back to the ancient face, and then to the new modern face, and then to the new age, and then to the spiritualism. When you're talking about spiritualism, Burma, it could also just as easily be categorized by someone else as a religion. And that's what I was saying. Even when we're together in fellowship, if you have a guru competition, I think that's the problem right there. My God is greater than your God. So if the Anunnaki, or those who came down, manifested Abraham and, you know, the Brahman, Vishnu, Zeus, and they're actually real, maybe there was a time they knew we would evolve and find out these are just re-manifestations of the same force from infinity that's waiting for us to become tolerant of one another and see that these are all just messengers sent by the same, and basically we're saying the same thing. And again, we clung to the communal and the political part of it. And there's where the division comes in. That's what I mean. Because if you move beyond it and there's still guru competition, you have a religion. You have the same problem, actually. You have people not tolerating each other.
Isn't a religion when people start following?
I don't think it was ever intended to be followed. That's my point. Is if you read most of the religions, most of them will speak of the next manifestation. All of them that I've ever read always speak of a manifestation coming after them, meaning it's going to be progressive. And usually that individual is not accepted because the people are stuck in the old, and they crucify him, or they poison him, or they imprison him, or torture him, and later look back and say, "Oh, that person was is in the sense Anunnaki, meaning those that came down." We find out later that they were saying the same thing. That was my point. Because if you even gather in a fellowship of 10 and we can't tolerate one person because we don't agree, then is that not the same thing that's going on? we're turning somebody away because they're not agreeing, or if they turn us away for that matter. I'm at the same mindset. And it's never meant to be for everybody to agree totally, just to have tolerance and cohesiveness and see it as many flowers of a garden. Everybody's view or seat or point of assemblage.
Well, yeah, when you said that you don't agree with me with the definition of religion, that's the whole point.
Yeah, it was mine. Exactly. Thank you.
We're not supposed to agree, but
you're not supposed to expect everybody to agree.
It's just treat the other person with the same respect that you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to the lessons of the religions. Fundamentally, don't lie, do to others as you would done to yourself, and you're good to go.
Yes, and I think that when, in her case, when she said when they come back and see us not worshiping them, I'm just speaking here now. I mean, I would see it more as have they progressed enough to be tolerant and cohesive? Maybe that's what they're waiting to see.
Well, I mean, to think of a deity that wants us to worship them. My God doesn't want me to worship him. My God wants me to be in joy. My God wants me to experience love and express love.
I totally agree.
So,
think
of it this way, though. If you were, we're not even anywhere close to God, right? But the ego, that's the ego, isn't that? You know, if a deity wants you to worship them, isn't that ego driven? Sure. Doesn't that sound ego driven? So is
wants to be the guru. Yeah.
Is that the, I mean, I'm just thinking that is the issue with mankind and religion. It's just that mankind is fallible. So everything has to be taken with a grain of salt here. Even the teachings, because it is somebody's perception that is then put onto a rock, put onto it. No, it's just I'm just kind of trying to
say that most of the teachers that I've
I
looked
understand what you're saying, but not all religions are like this. It's like the universal love and treat others as you would like to be treated yourself is a very Christianized concept, which is quite recent. Whereas many of the religions aren't like that. They do not believe that. They do not believe in treating others as they would like to be treated themselves. They are supremacist.
But that's the people, Mel. You will find in the... Go ahead.
No, you go on.
You will find in those, especially the Middle Eastern religions, which is where most were founded, besides the tribal ones, most of them do say do unto others. And the Buddha says it. Bob just explained what Hindus will say. If you say I'm God, they're like, nice to meet you, so ain't I. There's the tolerance. There's what I mean. That religion is already established as tolerance. And then it's the people that start worshiping, saying, my teacher's better than your teacher. And when they called Jesus good master, he said, no one is good. He didn't say bow down and worship me, and neither does Buddha, and neither does several,
Well, those are the teachers, right?
That's what I was saying. So the people started the worship and the guru competition. My guru is stronger than your guru.
Yeah. Which again, tainted by man to some degree, right?
Yes, that's why I was agreeing with you. I was just saying it's not always the teachers, though, is what I was saying.
From what they were actually trying to teach, which was, going within, listening to your higher self, listening to your soul. Because ultimately, unless a person have some kind of a mental disability of some sort, we all know right from wrong. We all know when we're treating somebody badly and when we're not treating somebody badly. So we have to take that upon ourselves too, and the energy that comes with those things that we do. I mean, of course, there's the learning process as well. You know, that for everything that we do, we're still always learning. We should be, and then growing from those points, whether it be religion, whether it be in daily life, whatever, you know.
Well, yeah, it's gotten so bad.
Yeah,
Look
but
at the denomination. Go ahead, no.
I wonder if our concept of right from wrong is really something that is inside all of us, or whether it is something that is culturally based. Because, okay, you look at the cult of Yahweh and the cult of Allah, and these are the ones that I've looked into. So, and there's many other cults. There's a Christian cult. There's all sorts of different cults. But some cults teach that there are two separate rules. One for fellow cultists and one for non-fellow cultists.
True.
And their concepts of right and wrong, for some of them, is very different from Christian culture's concepts of right and wrong. From the majority.
You're comparing a cult to a religion now, Mel. The purpose of a cult is very different. A cult is based on charismatic leadership and a group that are looking for that leader. A cult, you don't get born into a cult. You get indoctrinated into a cult. You get accepted into it. So I think when you were talking, Burma was talking about the right and wrong aspect, I think it goes down to pain. We look at cats. They know how rough they can be with a human baby. Dogs, animals, they know how to treat children, puppies, and younglings of other creatures. They treat them differently. They have that innate knowing, and I believe it comes from pain. Do you want to inflict pain? Because every creature feels pain. So do unto others revolves around whether your intention is to cause pain or to alleviate hardship.
So is humanity's capacity for evil based then on its ability to override its instinctive responses? So animals tend not to be able to override those. They operate a lot on instinct. Whereas humans tend to, although we have instincts, we're able to override them. Because if our instinct is not to harm each other, why are we so very good at doing so?
I think our instinct is to harm each other, the animal nature.
Yes, the carnal nature.
We've got a lower nature and a higher nature. If a mother is protecting her children, she would do anything, not thinking about the morality of the situation. She'll kill 1,000 people if she has to protect her children. That's instinct. But to elevate ourselves past that, that's where the free will comes in. Do you feed the dark wolf or do you feed the light wolf? It's all up to us, and this is all internal. The only external expression of what we get internally is when we lash out to other people in anger, or if we engage others in laughing and joy and merriment. These are the extreme ends of the dynamic that we're discussing today, I think. You know, one, you worship God because you fear hell. The other one is you worship God because love is so empowering and it feels so good that you want everybody else to feel the same thing.
Wouldn't that be a case of where the intellect, and you would want education there then? Definitely, because if you raise an infant in the jungle, I mean, without direction, it's going to be,
Tarzan.
yeah, in its animal nature, right? I mean, as an example, I think that's the problem. I mean, some people are still stuck in the dark age, and that's what I mean. Instead of looking at the next teacher, if you want to call it that, or special individual or Anunnaki, whatever you want to call it, that comes with enlightenment, it's rejected because they're caught back prior, locked into the one prior, especially in the Mideast. Because if you see these teachers coming, I think what's happened, I think, and I don't want to sit here and quote, but the Apostle Paul, St. Paul says, the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. Well, even though he's sitting there writing rules and laws, it's for right then. He knows if the letter kills and the spirit gives life, the letter that he's writing right now is only meant for right then. And what I think happens is the culture are still reading these documents from clear back then and trying to make application in humanity is affected by it, because that teacher, instead of waiting for the next teacher to come in progression, did not get accepted. They didn't. They end up crucifying or killing or imprisoning almost in every case. If you go back and read it, they don't want to hear the even more. They don't want to hear it. They're locked in the animal nature. They don't get into the letter of the law. That's what I've seen. I mean, and I also see it in smaller groups. I mean, and I include myself in that. We get locked into that way we were brought up and our morals. And if we get to that point where mine's better than yours, or I'm not tolerating this person, it's the same way to me as closing your doors to your church and starting another church somewhere else. It's the same mentality, because we're locked into that letter of the law that we have established, and not the spirit that gives life, progression, and eliminates stagnation, which is death, I think. True death.
Yes, I agree. It's all about progression, and your progression is going to be either towards growth or decline and decay. So,
So in the case of Judaism, if they would have seen, and I know there's different cases just from what I've seen, and I have looked beyond that, if the Jews would have accepted it, what's happening is he's bringing the Gentiles into the picture. And of course, they're going to reject that because Yahweh was God and their way was the way. Yet they were awaiting the Messiah. They're awaiting that next teacher, but they're not going to agree with him until he agrees with them, is what they're waiting on. He has to bring something new, even more, or there's no need for another teacher to appear. Correct?
absolutely.
Yeah. Why would he appear if he's going to bring the same old message? So what I've seen in studying that is they're waiting for any teacher. I'm not just going to use Jesus as an example. I'm using him as an example to bring even more. When he brought even more, they didn't want to hear it. He's telling them the kingdom's within them, and you have to return as a child and be reborn. And he's giving them all this info that they need to progress from the animal nature to the spiritual. And they go back to the letter of the law and make application. And that's where you see the death and the guru competition and the fighting, and they can't even
Self-importance.
Yeah, self-importance, and they can't even be tolerant is the sad thing. And Mel, back to the Anunnaki, I think that's what they would be waiting for us to come together as humanity as a whole. Of course, not agreeing on everything. That's robotic. It's the unity in the diversity, keeping the diversity as like an icon in the beautiful pearl in your pocket, but you had to let it go, and you have to move on to the even more that's always coming. and that they haven't done. Several have, but the majority of religious establishments haven't. They're still saying my God is better than your God. No matter if they're Christians, it could be a Christian. The Christians do it themselves, and so do other religions. They're branched out and can't even tolerate each other in some cases.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We have to all understand that, again, to respect everybody else's, you know, what their belief is, to respect that. And Captain, yeah, Captain, come in here and say something, because I know you haven't
Yes,
said
please.
anything in a while.
Hmm.
He's like, see ya, I'm out of here.
No worries, jumping, having a little technical difficulties here. Plug in my phone, so continue. I'll chime in here in a few.
Okay. I just don't want anybody being left out. Oh my goodness, you're all dark. Mel, all dark.
I can't hear Magi or Captain very well, so I'm getting a gist of it, but of what Magi's saying. He's breaking up on Discord. Because I don't have much sound on my laptop, so I'm having to listen to these on Discord at the same time. I heard Captain then.
Did your fish tank shut off?
Yeah, I've turned it off.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know our animal instincts, we tend to, I know we still have, it's just as far as our countries have this, our territorial, just like, you know, you see a lion's pride, it have its territorial area that it patrols, and I see no different than that. I see countries and flags being no different than street gangs, marking a territory and feuding over that territory or feuding over politics and being the same type of construct.
I agree.
Just a smaller version on the way up.
Mm. Yeah, it seems to me that like many of these religions, they all seem to have this doctrine that they are going to inherit the earth, that they are destined, that they are the chosen people, the chosen ones.
Yes.
And to me, this seems it's creating this race to see which one is going to be able to bring that about first. Because they can't all be the chosen people. And we're just pawns in their games.
Well, I always stay away from the ones that say they're the ones.
But I see that as, you know, people going around saying they're Jesus or they're some type of Messiah. I see it just going through a spiritual test, and at that point their egos is being tested, and some pass and some don't. Some just go off and run with it. And, getting over that hurdle, that stage in life is very important, in my opinion.
Mm.
I think it's back to self-importance.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. So how do we end it? How does humanity end the problem of religion? All these types of religions. What do we do?
Isn't it hard to tell another person what they should and shouldn't do as far as their religious or spiritual belief is concerned, right? I mean, we can sit here and say, okay, it's not right that some of them do this, it's not right that some of them do that, but at the same time, again, there's the path that we're all on, right? So maybe that path, they have to be there in order for them to learn and to spiritually grow, or to grow in their religion or grow as a person. That's where they need to be. You know what I mean? So for us to even say that some of the fundamentals is wrong, that's wrong of us to say that. There still has to be a tolerance even on our end, even if we feel that and I would never put myself above anybody else just because I feel like I'm spiritual. Now, this is just my personal growth, this, you know, where I'm at. But I'm not saying that that's the right place to be, or that I would expect anybody else to follow me. I think that's, like, again, it's so personal. I think religion, spirituality, finding God for yourself, or if that's what you want to call it, it's so personal, and that's where it should be.
It comes down to listening to one another, and then agreeing to disagree if possible. Trying to look in the other person's shoes, put yourself in their shoes. And like I said, if can't come to agreement, agree to disagree, and the conflict is unnecessary, and
That's
uh,
tolerance. Yes.
yeah, that's where we're having our issues, I believe, as mankind.
Yeah, if you have that issue with somebody, then you choose to be the bigger person and turn the cheek and walk away. If you feel so strongly about it, there probably is some self-searching that you need to do if it's hindering you for some reason, especially with religion.
But we can't walk away from a planet. And at what point do
I meant people. I
we
didn't mean a planet.
stop? I know you did, but I'm just taking it that way. We can't walk away from a planet. So at what point do we stop being tolerant of intolerance? Because if the other party will not be tolerant of you because of their religious views and their beliefs and their ideology, and they are quite happy for other people who aren't of their religion or even are of their religion to be collateral damage in their war games, should we therefore still be tolerant and turn the other cheek, even if it means the end of our civilization, our cultures? What are your thoughts on that?
There's a limitation to everything. You know what I mean? Like I feel like if they're like, you know what I mean? Like maybe we need to do something because that's pretty extreme, But I think if it's like a personal walk, they're really not hurting anybody. Okay, that would be mine, and I'll make that short so anybody else can get in there and speak.
Well, I see cultures and things of that nature molding through time as changing and slightly, just like language, slightly changing and morphing into different constructs. So I don't think, we should be anywhere scared of losing any type of culture or losing anything that we got. It's all about what can we gain from here on out? Take this present, this gift we have now, and mold the future and learn what can we learn from the past. Lessons.
Well said.
We win or we learn. No losses.
I think we're trying to cover something that smells bad with the deodorant. Well, you have to get rid of what's making the stink. And the only way I see this working is when people start working on themselves. Instead of telling other people how they should behave, they will focus on their internal state. And the only way we can truly change the world is by changing ourselves. It's the laws of fractals. It's putting into action what we're trying to preach. And if you really want to be a beacon, do that by being an example, not by expressing amazing words. Because words are deceptive. Words are very tricky in making us believe just because we're thinking about something that we are either being it or experiencing it. Well, that's a completely different state of existence.
Yeah, and I think we're setting a good example right here. Us five all came from different cultures and backgrounds. Yet we can sit and talk, and we don't say mine's better than yours. And I think you're right, Bob. When that culture and those people decide to be tolerant, it's it's progressive. Like I really believe it's progressive.
I was just going to be a jerk and say mine is better than yours, Magi.
No, I'm just,
but I was just joking.
I think he was right. If they see the example, they see the model, they see it works, then yeah, I would assume that you would draw the beast to the hive.
we also got a lot of stresses in life, and this, people go through their, debt problems, and then it tends to pile up through the day, whether they're arguing with their family, and those type of things also affect how people deal with each other in the community.
Yeah, and it depends on your
Hmm.
community and how you were raised, and absolutely, your environment has a lot to do with that. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, how do you convince somebody that's terrified that they're going to go to hell if they don't do exactly what they were told?
That was a tough
That's
one
not,
for me,
yeah,
Magi.
that's really not up to us. That's what Bob is saying. It's up to them to change.
I
They
mean,
have to change. All we can do is kind of nurture it and set the example and say, wow, how come these people that came from different cultures and backgrounds could sit and talk without yelling at each other and, calling each other out or, anti this or anti that.
yeah, I just think, like, for myself, that anything that brings people to religion with fear, you have to be wary of. If they're using fear to
Fear
pull
has
you
torment.
in,
It's torment.
I mean, like, I just don't believe that something that has created everything is going to try to bring you to it with fear.
Mm-hmm. I
There's
totally agree with you.
there's no way that I see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's when I started questioning everything, especially with religion. I mean, I tried for a very long time to be that, leading by your faith. Oh, just have faith. And I just couldn't. I'm like, I have questions. Answer my questions. Like, why can't you answer my that this was that's where it started off for me. And then I just kind of went about, your
In my experience, that's a good
personal
way
walk.
to nurture it, because a lot of times they can't answer that question. In my experience, they can't answer why they can't all be tolerant and get along. They can only answer for themselves, and that's what you find out. That's what I found out.
Did Michelle actually figure out how to join us?
Is Michelle in?
Oh, she just muted herself. Michelle, unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Hi,
hello,
Michelle.
Michelle.
Hello. Oh my god.
You
I went
got
into
in. Yay!
We can't
Welcome.
see. She's like, all like, I'm so shy.
Can you see me?
No, we can't see you now either. Can you see me now?
Is my little
Don't you be
emoji
standing in front of your hot tub with that palm tree.
I went in through Chrome, and so I was having problems with the other browser. So I was like, all right, give me a second. And da-da-da-da.
Is she coming through clearly for us to view?
Yeah,
What?
for the most part. I mean, sounds like she's driving.
I sound like I'm driving?
Mm-hmm. You sound like you're in a tube or something.
I am. Let
She's
me
not
out.
in a tube. She's in her hot tub.
I'm stuck. Get me out, you guys. I need help.
There is a button at the top where it has video, and then you see those buttons.
Yeah.
Are they both white, or are they red?
They're white.
They're both white. See, the camera should be on then. I don't know.
Just turn camera. Well, no. I want my emote. Hang on. There.
Oh,
There you are.
we can see something.
There's a picture of you.
That's what I wanted to come up. You guys, I just
yeah.
woke up.
Oh, man. Yeah. Hello. I don't even want to hear it, and I'm on. Okay. This never happens. How many times do you ever see my hair up on YouTube?
You look cute.
Okay.
You're adorable. You're adorable.
Aren't you?
Oh, I have
Actually,
a question.
Oh.
When I was listening to your guys' conversation, I have a question. This individual approached me and said, can you prove manifestation? And, I want to see what you guys think. This is just my opinion on manifestation. My opinion is that we are constantly manifesting. Whether it is through propaganda or whatever they're trying to do to have us manifest on their behalf, or whatever, we are constantly manifesting. So to ask somebody to prove and he actually said, manifestation is a conscious act and then something appearing. Well, I think that, in my opinion, that we are manifesting whether it's subconscious or consciously. So once you start to take back your sovereignty and understand, when you start manifesting from your heart, things start to happen around you and change. You know, the systems that are around us begin to change and look in different ways to us. But what I wanted to get to know from you guys is, what is your opinion on manifestation? Is it only a conscious act and then it pops into existence? Or do you kind of think how I do, where we're constantly manifesting, we just aren't aware of it? Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely believe we're constantly manifesting. Like I said before, the present is a gift. That's what they call it, the present, and it's what we think. Uh, some of our interactions is what molds the future, what creates it. So I would say, yeah, it's definitely manifesting, and I believe the ascension, part of the ascension is us being able to manifest even faster. So right now, I believe that the manifestation takes a bit of time, which is good because of how our brains rapidly think. If everything that we thought manifested instantly, we'd have a problem. So once we become more disciplined as a human race, mentally, um, be able to have a more disciplined mind over different frequencies coming in, and body and soul, mind, body, and soul, um, under control fully, then that manifestation can uh, amp up and become uh, more instantaneous, or more closer to, closer and more closer together and able to manifest quicker. Um, that's just my get on that.
And so, what my thought was is that we are manifesting, but we're not conscious of it. We're constantly, like, they put out propaganda, you know. Okay, I'm not trying to get grotesque, but let's look at 9/11. Everybody looked at 9/11. They wanted to manifest, you know, a war so they could get the oil and the spoils, or whatever. So they had everybody look at this event, and then their energy went behind, oh my gosh, we got attacked, we have to do something, which allowed them to manifest their war and for them to get their spoils. What I was trying to get across to this gentleman was that, you know, just because you're not aware, you know, that you are manifesting, it doesn't mean you're not manifesting. And it doesn't have to be, I manifested myself a car. Manifestations take different forms depending on your heart. I got blessed with the manifestation that was for my health. I got something that actually ended up showing up in the 3D that helped with my health reasons. But to prove a manifestation like that is almost prideful. But my thought was that, you know, there's the big secret that, you know, humanity's biggest secret is that we are all manifestors. And certain people know that, and they try to get us to manifest what is the desired outcome to make their life cushy and good. But as we're going on this journey, we're becoming more awakened to our abilities. And by being awakened to our abilities, we're realizing we are the manifestors. They're nothing without us, and that we take control back on that. And the idea that we, you know, were able to do this. I mean, it could possibly, when the 100th monkey, when it gets down the line where people begin to understand and apply their heart, that this world could change overnight. You know, once you get over that 50% tipping point, people become aware that, oh my gosh, I am a part of, you know, this world and manifesting what is going on. There won't be people in lack. There won't be people suffering, because we will manifest something that is so beautiful and so wonderful from our heart. But I don't think it's a conscious act. It can be, but I also think on the subconscious level, because I think that's what they use as their tool, you know, to have us manifest what they want. Now, a conscious manifestation, of course, will be more powerful. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, it's definitely on the subconscious is the most powerful part where the manifestation takes place. Now, it's been able to um, do it on a conscious level. Yes, there's like people do vision boards where they or little tab notes that they write on their mirror. Today's going to be a good day, or I'm going to get a job today, and see that every time they wake up and every time they go to sleep to program their subconscious. So do others program? The higher power, so to speak, attempt to program our subconscious? Yes. Can we program our own subconscious? Yes, we can. And I think that's what a lot of us lack that knowledge of and ability at this time.
It's also about manifestations, also about the way that you ask the universe for things. And you have to believe it within yourself, and it can't come from a selfish place. It has to, I mean, at least that's how it is for me. Of course, maybe that's how my brain works. So I only get the things that I actually need to get. But yeah, I mean, how do you explain manifestation? I mean, each and every individual has to actually experience it for themselves, of that manifestation in their own life where they're actually calling into what they want to manifest for them, whether it's a job, whether it's financial gain, whether it's your cat needs an operation and you want it for cheaper than what you would normally pay, or you want guitar lessons for free. That's one of mine. So, I mean, I think for each individual, we have our own ones that happen for us. Now, if you're intending to do it, then that's the intentional, right? Did I explain it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say it's the knowing when you know that you're able to do it. That's that will, that determination, that all that confidence behind it. That's what pushes it, makes it stronger, makes it more likely it's gonna occur more quicker.
And you touched on the heart. The heart-centered manifestations are the most powerful. If you're manifesting and it's for somebody else and it's for their benefit, kapam, that's going to manifest so much faster than, I want a Ferrari in my driveway. That's not going to happen the same way that if you're thinking something that will benefit somebody else in some way, a selfless act of manifestation. I did. Those happen.
I think it can happen either way, because I manifested my Mustang. It was kind of like
that's a gift
for me. Yeah, it was a gift to myself for getting through my schooling and pushing through the pain that I was enduring. So I felt that it was, and that's what you have to do, is that if you feel that you're worthy of it, then it will happen. But if you don't feel that you're worthy and you're trying to come up with all these excuses in your own head, like, because the chattering monkey that never wants to shut up, so yeah. I mean, I did manifest my car though. But yes, I do agree with you that it will happen a lot faster, I think, if you're trying to manifest for other people too. It's more of a pure of heart.
So if we manifest this reality, then those who originally were in communication with the gods, then let's assume that they manifested those gods. So they then felt they were worthy themselves of being special in some way. So they were worthy of being called the Son of God or the Messiah or whatever. Does that make the Messiahs like sociopaths or narcissists?
I guess it depends on who put them there. Is it the person that thinks that they are, they're worthy of that title? It's a title. That's an ego, right? I mean, that's at least the way I look at it. It's more, I think, with like the Messiah, Jesus, right? Take Jesus, for example, that it wasn't that he wanted to be put there. It's that people elevated him to that point, right? He knew how to manifest. He was trying to teach people how to manifest. He was saying it's within you. Yes. Go within.
Yes. He was trying to show them that they were just like he was.
Exactly. That we're no different.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. So they elevated him. He didn't elevate himself. Yes. So I think that's a key point. I don't know about Buddha. Wouldn't think so. Not about Buddha. I would think, again, he's been elevated to that point. Maybe even taken a little bit past where they should be. As far as who knows? Maybe Jesus was a man. It's like Jesus in this country, for every depiction, is a white dude. Where he came from, he wouldn't have been a white dude. Everybody knows this. But yet the depictions are wrong. So it's like we change little details. Like you're changing these little details. How much more are you changing? So good. Here comes the discernment, right? To figure it out for yourself, to go within. I think your heart should know the answer. You should.
Well, that was a good example of when I said, we're trying to put him in our position. In their case, they're trying to put him in their position. Look, they turned him light-skinned and blue-eyed, and that's what I said earlier. They weren't following what was said. We've tried to bring them to us, the way the Jews wanted Jesus to be, the way they wanted him to be, not the way he was going to be. He had an even more message. That's what I said. And they rejected that. They wanted him to say.
I think he was white.
Well, I didn't mean.
But I don't think.
Not white, yeah.
I don't think that's, kind of relevant to the point we're discussing, but.
It's really not, I just like to bring it up.
Well, I meant in the sense that we created the character to look like the culture. Is what I meant, and bringing them to us, instead of us listening to the message.
Yeah.
That's all I was saying.
And on the topic of it, that this is religion, right? I can't see the page anymore because I'm on a different what do you call it, browser. But religion, these sects, these things, the government, all these things are put in place so they can kind of have a little bit of control, over what people are manifesting. So when the gentleman said, prove the manifestation. Well, how do you prove a manifestation? You really cannot, and nobody would want to. That's an ego thing right there. To prove a manifestation would be, oh, look what I can do. And it's more about individualism. Individualism, I think, is beautiful, but the ego part, it made it, that part needs to go away. But I think they know, and by putting in these groups and these leaders and stuff, they kind of guide people into manifesting what it is that they're wanting. They're wanting the outcome. And that's where we've gotten into this mess that we're at now. But as time is going on, and we're waking up, we're realizing, whoa, wait a minute, wait. One of the best kept secrets, it could be the very fact that we are manifesting what is going on around us. And by us, waking up to that and getting the understanding, then we could take back it onto ourselves. Of course, take responsibility for what we've manifested. How could you be mad at anybody for anything that happened when you find out, wait a minute, I was partaking in that manifestation? Helps you with forgiveness. But also, you could take back your sovereignty and the beautiful individualism by the different gifts we all display, the different colors that we radiate. And I'm not talking colors of our skin, I'm talking colors of the rainbow, that your passion is what you're going to go after. And when you go after what is your passion, that's going to be your interest. And like Burma, for example, her passion is a healer. So she's going to go after that gift and get mastery on that, and she's going to heal people right and left. It's just going to happen for her. But at the same time, we're also learning that we're manifesting what is going on around us, and then we could take it back onto ourselves. And when it comes down to the lay people, the ones that sweat by by their brow, and are doing all the lumping labor stuff, the manifestations that we're going to come up with are going to benefit mankind as a whole. It's not going to prop up certain people and make them gazillionaires so that they can live this high and lofty life. It will be the great equalizer. And the more people that become aware that they are manifesting, whether consciously or subconsciously, this world will be a better place. And Magi, I've heard you say more than one time, we, and even Bob, we are the ones we've been waiting for. And you know what? That is so true. As people are becoming aware of this very profound, and it's real hard to wrap your mind around when something, this religious people will have a problem with it, that we're manifesting. They don't want to put themselves at the level of Jesus. But even in that book, it says, when you see him, you will be like him. So
Yes.
they're not reading their book correctly. But when we take that responsibility, and even if the scales tip to 51% become self-aware, then even at 51%, the 49% are then going to go along for this wonderful, beautiful ride. Life is going to become easier. There will be no more lack. It's just going to be a wonderful thing. But it's just a matter of people becoming self-aware and understanding that, whether consciously, subconsciously, or however. There's a reason that they're projecting things out on television. There's a reason why somebody's standing up behind the pulpit trying to tell you how to think and how to worship and what you need to be doing. There's a reason these things are put in place, and it helps to keep certain people living a certain lifestyle. But we will all be living a different lifestyle, and there won't, the suffering will end, and it's just. It'll just be a wonderful thing. But when you talk about Illuminati and things like that, how do we know what their secret is? Could be the best kept secret from mankind, but it's coming back into our awareness that, wait a minute, we have some say-so in what goes on around us. So when you have a little more say-so, those prison bars, they start to disappear. You start to walk through them instead of thinking you need to be caged up. So I appreciate you guys, answering that and putting your what your feelings and thoughts are on that. It's just something that came across on my little thing that I have going on, and I was like, how am I supposed to prove that without it sounding ego, and how do I spark it to wake that other person up that they know they're doing it for themselves too? So thank you.
And so, Michelle, I would love Mel to be able to hear everything you just said. And I'm sorry, Mel, there's absolutely no way that I could have typed all of what she just said into a chat bar. Or even, I don't know, Magi, maybe if you could elaborate a little bit of what she was saying, and then we can kind of, because I was trying to type to Mel at this, I'm trying. Michelle, she can't hear you because she has to be on, you have to be on Discord in order for her to hear you. So, so unfortunately, Mel can't hear you, Michelle.
Okay, I am on Discord, so what do I need to do so she can hear me on Discord?
Just put your
yeah,
mic.
you're cutting out for me. That's all.
Oh, it was that she's cutting out for you? I thought you couldn't hear it at all. Oh, I'm sorry. It's my fault.
That's okay. That's all right. Well, Stariana, in chat, had a really interesting question. She wondered what the world would be like without religion. And she has replied that she thinks, if I'm getting this right, that it wouldn't be as good as it is today. That we'd be more animalistic. But I believe differently. I believe that if we didn't have the religions, we would actually, for a start, the earth would be a lot more crowded because there'd be a lot more humans. But I think we would actually be far more progressed in terms of spirituality, not religion, but spirituality, but also in scientific and technological advancement. I think religion has held us back massively because of the way it has used money to hinder progress, except in the areas that benefit the elites, how it siphoned wealth of the majority to the few and kept them in power, how it has caused the massacres and deaths of untold millions of people, and how it has impeded cooperation between different empires, kingdoms, countries, whatever you want to call them. That's my view. It'd be interesting to know what you guys think.
I mean, that could really go either way. And it would really depend on people and where that started from. Like, if that was from the beginning of time, by this time, if there was no religion, yeah, we could be further. And it's not to say that people still wouldn't come to a point of being compassionate people. You know, I mean, I think that's in us to be compassionate, right? I mean, I don't have religion and I have spirituality, but it doesn't make me or not be compassionate. That is the person that I am. So, so yeah. I mean, I think it could go either way. And there are so many paths there, right? So we're at this point living right now, and from this point on, there's how many paths that we all can take. So if you were to not introduce religion at all, how many paths would there have been to, would we be where we're at today? Will we not be where we're at today? I mean, that question is loaded on so many different, because it can go this way or it can, and here I am, the Libra sitting on the fence. Okay, somebody else can go now.
Yeah, I believe if there wasn't religion, we'd have been in our spirituality fully. We'd have elevated more in that area than we are now. I believe we would have built with nature instead of against it. I do believe we're attempting to correct that as we speak, slowly but surely.
I personally think that religion's been extremely helpful. What I'm hearing isn't argument against religion. I'm hearing arguments against a military state, where all the resources that is put into military, if it was put into benevolent scientific purposes, then we would have been ahead of the time. So the religion acted as a buffer, like a carrying oil, so to speak, to stop us from going all out. At least some fear of a reprisal after this existence would have put a second thought in somebody's mind before they clubbed somebody else on the head because they wanted their catch from the hunt that they were on. So I believe that everything in nature is perfect in its truest sense of perfection, that it doesn't need to be any different, and it would evolve to the best possible form according to the environment it's in. Right now, what you're saying might be applicable, but we wouldn't have gone here. It's like being strict on a child and limiting their access in the household and what they're able to do, limiting their exposure on the internet. There is some governance needed until the person can do that by themselves. But what ends up happening, instead of cultivating the positive in the individual, we start to minimize the negative, and that's not going to get us to where we want to go. And manifestation is just a new term for self-fulfilling prophecy. And basically, thoughts become words, words become actions, actions become manifestations. Wanting a supernatural form of manifestation is unreasonable. We all know this. We all know that we have powers of manifestation now, but as far as it being the big secret, I think the big secret is that there is no secret. And it's all about collaboration and steadfastness and holding on to certain qualities that gets the job done. Why is it that one athlete can consistently score while other athletes do not? And performance-wise, they're not that different. It's that spirit that's inside us. And without contrast, it would be just, I believe, a wildfire. We wouldn't have made it to where we are without religion. But now religion has become a handprint. And when Captain was talking about reaching that balance, I don't think it's religion that's got us out of balance. I think it's inequality of men and women that's causing that commotion and all the problems we're seeing on the planet, is because we've turned women into second-hand citizens for thousands of years. And racism. Eliminate these two, and everything else will fit into place a lot more readily. However, you can't eliminate racism. You have to nourish open-mindedness, diversity, change, being able to like they're just finding out in the medical field, instead of trying to make stronger antibiotics, why not through probiotics increase the good bacteria instead of trying to eliminate the negative bacteria, and along with it all the good bacteria as well.
I want to elaborate a little more on why I feel that it is probably one of the biggest secrets. We look at secret societies and things like that. If you knew, if you were aware that each and every person, which we know that they put up these stones, want to keep mankind under 500 million, and so they can keep their control matrix in place. Well, as people are waking up, they're going to take back their sovereignty, and they're going to create something that is more beneficial for everyone rather than a certain few. Well, secret societies and things like that. If they knew, and I'm just saying this is an if they are aware that people are actually the manifestors here, and they want them to manifest what is going to benefit them. I'm sorry, I have to say, I would think that would be one of the biggest secrets they would not want out of the bag. They don't want the general population to realize that, whether consciously or subconsciously, that they are creating the situation and the environment that, because we all have that God-given ability. So, when people become aware of that, and that cat's out of the bag, like Pandora's box, once it's open, it can't be closed again. And once people start to understand that, their secret is out, and therefore so is their power, and their authority over people. And I would think that would be something that they would want to be very tight-lipped on, because once you let people know that, you're manifesting what's going around you, who's going to manifest that they are the ones with all the money and the businesses and the oil, and people are going hungry and poverty while they're padding their pockets? We're not going to manifest in that manner anymore. We're going to manifest what's in the best interest for everybody, because nobody, well, there's still, we run into the odd duck every once in a while, but through this journey, the people that I've encountered, the beautiful, wonderful people that I've encountered, their hearts are so big, and none of them, without, except for the exception every once in a while, wants anyone to be, suffering, hungry, their needs in life. We want everybody's needs in life to be met, and we have a heart that is based towards that. Maybe it's because we're at that bottom of the pyramid, and we've been there for so long that we have so much compassion for one another that we would want to flip it. We want everybody to be, the equal that they are. So that would be why. That's why I, propose that is one of the biggest secrets. And once that secret gets out, it would be a world changer. It would be just, it would be amazing. It would be a world changer.
Look at it like this. I mean, I'm including myself in the crowd. How many of us would open up our doors tonight to a group of refugees from Syria or from Africa or from anywhere else in the world. How many of us would open our doors to relatives that we don't like? We are that 99% of the population. We are the ones who are living in abundance while the rest of the world, the majority of it, is in poverty and doesn't even have clean water. We are those people. We are the elite. Maybe not as elitist as someone who has a jet and has lots of houses, but as far as having clean water goes, having access to hospitals, having access to educational system, to creature comforts, we are the elite.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're complaining about those who are more elite than us, what are we doing about it? Nothing. And that's the mentality. That's the mentality that's been manifested. And the reason we're so much crying into it being such a big secret, calling it the secret when the book first came out, is because of guilt. And it's unwarranted guilt because we don't have the proper infrastructure in place to get help to people who need the help. And we're so busy running around and trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever our project is at that point in life. We've got our children, get them to the best universities. The world's all gone by. It's all fanciful constructs in our mind. And not until the rest of humanity has the basic needs that they have, we're not going to be out of torment. If the small toe in your body is in pain, the entire body is in discomfort. Let alone we got majority of it. We got people in Western worlds running to lose weight because there's so much food here. And we've got people in different parts of the world running to catch food.
Yes.
You know? So we are the manifestation of our greed. And North America was the beacon, and the whole American dream, that was the manifestation. That was the collective manifestation. Come here, and doesn't matter what race or what class you're on, you can work hard and go up, and that's been taken away. We're upset now because we're starting to get affected by it.
Well said.
I think also people are coming down to an understanding that the lifestyle of having so much is it's more than that. Life is more than just stuff. Life is more than just the wanting to own a bunch of crap, right? Sorry, Mel. Did I say is crap okay? But it's, like I said before, it's about filling your spiritual hole. You can't fill it with things, no matter how hard you try.
It's just a process of learning.
Well, I know we do tend to point fingers at the elite, what we see as the elite, because of the manipulative tactics that we didn't see. But a lot of the things are right in our faces. We just chose not to see them. So I do get that as well.
Yes.
And as far as pointing fingers, we obviously said before we shouldn't do that. It's about solutions. What can we do now? How small or how big? Can we take a small bit of time out of our day to see what we can do to affect change and action on it?
I think it's a natural progression in a way, because it wasn't that long ago that the majority of people were illiterate. And then people became literate. And now we have better means of sharing information via the internet. So I agree that in the past, humanity has allowed our individual power to be taken from us long ago. And generation after generation after generation has been born into and brainwashed into believing, in my opinion, because of religion, that God said you were to be born a serf, therefore that is your place. You have no right to question your elders, your betters, that have been given the God-given right to rule over you. Well, that's all changing. That's all changed now. So, although I still think most people still have this mentality that they're not bright enough, intelligent enough, or good enough to take power back. But this is all changing with the internet. This is allowing people to find out more about what's going on in other parts of the world and to care about them. But I also think it's natural to care more about your physical reality, the people that you see and know and love every day, than it is to be able to care about somebody you've never met on the other side of the world. Because if I felt the same about every human on the planet, it would be crippling. So, just like when a human undergoes a traumatic experience and they can bury those memories, then I believe we have an instinctive emotional shut-off to stop us caring equally for all humans, even those we never met. Because how would we cope with those emotions if we did? So it's a bit like when there was the famous famine in Ethiopia, Bob Geldof and all of that. Suddenly everyone cared about Ethiopians. Well, people, like you said, Bob, people are starving every day all over the world, and we don't think about it. I know people who deliberately don't watch wildlife programs because they get upset. So I think that's an instinctive thing to avoid situations and thoughts that are going to upset you. So it is callous of humanity to not care equally for everybody, but I also think it's an instinctive self-protection mechanism to not care equally for everybody.
Absolutely, I agree with that. But it's not a matter of caring about other people, because that's like saying I'm too squeamish to do the surgery and you're the only person there that can try and save the person's life. So it's going to be messy. We don't want to get messy anymore. We don't want to engage life anymore. We want to be isolated. We want to, like, our cars are getting more and more comfortable, and you're not feeling the road and you're just plushing through. You go to a supermarket, they've chopped up your salad for you already, charging you 4 times the price. The conveniences that are being put in front of us, this is the temptation, and there's nothing wrong with it, but to realize there is going to be a consequence based on it, and we're the ones voting by our action. I mean, one peanut butter company wouldn't survive if nobody bought any goods from them. We complain about surveillance and 5G, and we punch each other waiting in line to get the next iPhone. There's a lot of contradictory behavior and words being exhibited.
Yeah, the well, the thing with that is, and that's how far the brainwashing has gone. Because find anybody that can try to live off grid or live off the land, and it's a hard thing to do. It's almost against the law, pretty much. So, if someone wants to detach from this society, are they allowed to? And that's where that comes in. And then if no one's allowed to, you have to participate. And then what's going on with the rest of it? How come everybody's so addicted to these iPhones and all to these uh, different
That's an
distractions and shiny
excuse.
toys?
That's it. You don't need permission to go off grid. You just go off grid. You just go and do it. It's more that romantic notion of being independent. I don't fully agree with Melanie when you say that our power was taken away from us, because by ourselves we have no power.
We gave it up. Yep.
Yeah, our ancestors did, but it was, if you believe in what is said in the cuneiform tablets, then it was taken away from people 6,000 odd years ago.
I think you made a good point.
So,
good.
It's that's when money was imposed by the priest kings, who were put in place by the gods and given the God-given divine right to rule. So it was taken off of our ancestors if the writings in those tablets are in any way accurate. But I do agree that we do have a power. We just need to learn to exercise it. And I think this is the first time since then, 6,000 years, that humanity is being given the tools to communicate together again effectively and learn how to do that.
Yeah, that's why I was talking about education, and that's what I was getting at. And I think you were right. I think there was a time, let's go back to religion, that the ones that were intellectually prepared, no matter be it however, they would read at the podium, and the people had no idea how to read. So they had to look to those people. I think if the message clear back, if you want to go back to where we can find culture, if they would have said, you have a self-investigation of truth, it wouldn't have applied, because there were certain people that were intellectually there and prepared that could read and write. And then there was those that couldn't, so they had to depend on the elders. And even in the Catholic Church, I know, being raised Catholic, that for years, and to this day, to be honest, it's not encouraged to read the scripture. It's encouraged to read Catholic liturgy. And we all know what that's for. But it's based on, in the 3rd or 4th century, that most of the people didn't know how to read. So the priests and the bishops and the cardinals, they knew how to read. They were educated. That's why I think education is so important. Now we have the ability to have that self-investigation of truth. The sad thing is, you're right. They've used it for so many other ways of control, and they control the education system. Like I just said, in the Catholic Church, you read Catholic liturgy, not not the scripture, and you're not qualified. It's what they think. Yet, this is what I mean by clinging to the old. We know today that we're qualified to read that scripture and equally come up with our own point of assemblage that should be just as valid as the next person's, at least tolerated.
Yeah. It's like so many people call themselves Christians, but I think if they actually read the Old and New Testament, they'd be horrified.
Yes, I agree. And what's and if we're going to go into Islam, I mean, basically it's the recap of the Old Testament with a slight favor of Ishmael, because they came from Mount Paran. It's not, I'll hear people say Muhammad said this. He's actually recapping the Old Testament. You're hearing what the Old Testament said, not what Muhammad said. He's instructed to go back through, and he's dressed in sackcloth and be an Old Testament prophet. Even when he's called, as soon as you open the Quran, it tells you.
To stay on the topic of religion, do you remember, and I know Magi has in-depth studied at least 6 religions, but remember when it was the Jesus and his disciples, and they were saying he was the king, and they were trying to draw their swords, and they wanted to fight. And he said, there's no need. This is not the way that it will come about. Well, there's no need to go out and fight with each other and debate. It will be a natural progression. And that's where, my opinion is coming up with it being, they don't want people to know that they're manifesting. Because when we become aware of that, it will
hold that thought.
Naturally.
Hold that thought, because if you're speaking to people that are semi-intelligent, and I mean education-wise, I know people have gifts. They don't have to be book educated. That's not exactly what I'm talking about. But if you go into a culture where they're cannibals, you're not going to start trying to get them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you have to have a whole different assemblage, and if you're going to nurture it and try to bring them to some type of intellect, even now you're only going to work to the intellect. Where you're going to worry spiritually, because if they're cannibals, then we're going to try to bring these people up to some type of intellect. And I think that's how it started. Yes, because.
But I was just bringing up that he said that put your swords away, because there won't be a need for bloodshed. It will become an understanding within people, and then the change will just happen without having to run around in Israel and chop up everybody that doesn't agree with what you're saying.
Yes.
I mean, that's what they were doing. I think they were stoning people, and they were doing horrific things to each other. And and that he was like, we're going to put away that stuff, because that it's going to be a new understanding, and once people understand, it'll just transport. But I just remember seeing that, in the Bible, and I know that you have been blessed with studying at least a minimum of 6 that I know of pretty in detail on that. So I pointed that to you because I know you would remember. It's not we got to go in and slaughter people that don't agree with us. It's just a matter of knowledge.
The kingdom will not be taken by force. That's pretty much would clear it up, and it's almost in every culture. That's what I'm saying. Those are the things that when I got past the letter and the law and the communal direction and the politics, that the underlying message in all those religions, I seen exactly what you're saying there. That there was the things that we talk about. They are in there. They're even in the Sumerian writings. But yes, of course, it's going to say the elders are going to teach, because the people they didn't have the ability to have self-investigation. That's why I think it's progressive. I think you're right. Today, the majority of the world probably has the ability, and do, I think, a lot, go out and have that in self-investigation of truth. Then they assemble it. And what I would caution against is, you're not a guru. We're all gurus. And we're going to come back with what we've assembled, which is an assemblage point. And we're going to share that assemblage point. Of course, we're not going to agree. But what we should see is the differences, if they're not radical, as many flowers in the garden. Everybody has their own beauty in delivering their dish at the banquet table. I've said that a million times, I know. But I mean, I do see that, instead of taking offense to it, as an example. And I do see your point, Mel. It was barbaric. That's what they were dealing with. The people were caught in the animal nature. Some had advanced, obviously, by spiritual means. And maybe, if that's what you want to call the gods, the touch of the gods, I have no problem with that. But I think education is huge today, is what I'm saying. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, Stariana said in chat that Old Testament human had a different mind or development. But I don't see that. I see the elites of today, the leaders of today, acting in exactly the same manner as they did in Old Testament times and before. I don't see a development. The only development I see is in perhaps, and this we can't really compare, but the general population in terms of their consciousness. But then we don't really know that because there aren't really records of what the consciousness of the general population was back then. You know, the books we have, the literature we have was written by the elites, the educated ones. So
True.
I don't know. I do, like I said, I do see the progression in terms of the general population becoming more educated and aware, but I don't see that progression in the elites. I think they're still behaving in exactly the same way their ancestors did. It's all about resources, money, control, and dominion.
And property.
Well, you can see that. You can see that over
I agree with
from
that.
Greek to Roman to all the times where this is the pyramid. The pyramid has always existed, right? So I do agree with that. But on a slighter note, I'm gonna have to say goodnight to everybody. I didn't want Mel. I just wanted to kind of let you know, and then I just wanted to say goodnight to everybody and thanks. This was awesome getting together with all of you guys and having this conversation. So
I come in and she leaves.
well, you know, it's because
Good
you.
night.
I'm
Good night, Burma.
leaving. I mean, really.
I figured it was, but I
It's all
still
your
love
fault.
you.
Oh, I'm just messing with you. And bye, Bob. Bye, Captain. Captain, it was nice to actually lay eyes on what you look like, so you could put the face to the, to the voice. So that's nice. And Magi, thank you for the little one that you gave me earlier, even though I can barely see you. He smiled and I could see him because everything was so dark. It's crazy. I know you were hiding in the dark. So you guys have a wonderful thing. And Mel, we should definitely do this again. This was fun.
We should do, absolutely.
So, sorry, I have to cut out.
Hopefully get it sorted so I can hear everybody properly.
No, it'd be good because then you'd be like, "What did she say?" And I'd be like, "I can't. I'm sorry, I can't do it." But yeah, have fun, and then we'll talk with you guys soon, and we'll have to make this like a thing. We'll talk about it later, though. Most definitely.
Okay.
Sounds great.
All right. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night, Burma.
One thing I did want
Sleep
to,
well.
sleep well. Yeah. One thing I did want to bring up is, I disagree that it's an excuse about the off-grid comment. Because if someone were to go off-grid and say build a cabin, if he were found, he would have issues, just as transients have issues. And I'm not saying they're all innocent in what they're doing, as far as being transient, eligibility work and all those other issues that come with that. But the construct
they've
of
made it very
society-
difficult today.
There's definitely courage.
But that's if you become noticeable. I mean, you look at somewhere like West Virginia where
Yes.
the FBI needs to go in by aerial route because they keep getting shot going towards them. There's remote places where if you want to be left alone, you'll find a place to be left alone.
Yes.
My point is that we're social creatures. We think that we want to be off the grid. We just, in reality, don't want to be connected to this grid. And by going off, it's not going to help change it. I'm not criticizing people going away and off of the grid. But if that's...
the hermit's way.
Yes.
Well, it's just not even going off the grid, off or on, anywhere in between there. Maybe they want a cabin close to town that's not hooked up to the electrical system or the sewage system. They have their own, so it's just the,
Yeah, that's like being a National Guard. We're talking about going off the grid is what, like, the frontier people did coming to West.
I think it's the freedoms I'm speaking of. The freedoms that I said being taken away is more what I'm speaking to than any specific.
Yeah, but you know what? I bet you when people get honest about it, the freedoms that they don't want it when they're alone. They want it when they're in the middle of society. And the issue drives that there's boundaries for everybody. One person's right ends when another person's begins. So a lot of the complaints are self-imposed. It's their assemblage point. You get people, I keep using this example because you can't get a better one. During the Auschwitz, the prisoners were singing and the guards were going insane because they couldn't break their spirit. These are people being thrown in gas chambers and they're singing. So that freedom is not out in the woods or away from the system or in the monastery. True freedom is being in the moment and not restricted because you care what your family thinks or people who close by you. The way they control you isn't through strangers, it's by your own family and the people you're closest to. Make
True,
sure
and I
that
do agree. I do
That's
agree.
true.
It's relinquishing. One would have to relinquish control, and we tend to as people. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
I
Well
mean,
said.
the best example is this fellowship here.
Yes.
The reason it's sustained and it's caught on so quickly is because we would not find this type of conversation in our day-to-day lives. So uh, we're seeking to find like-minded people. Now, that's living in a metropolitan and being on the internet using technology. Now, imagine I'm up in a cabin somewhere where my only company's wildlife and I'm not talking to another human being. Uh, that's the apocalyptic future people see because they can't trust other humans. We have to get all our stuff hoarded so we can survive. Who wants to survive in a reality like that is beyond me. The game isn't about how long you can play. The game is how well you play. You know, it's like baseball. You can get in there, and in the first inning, hit 7 home runs, and for the rest of the game, there aren't any more runs from either team. Doesn't matter how many innings you went through; it's the runs that you brought in. We just like to
I
complain.
see. I see both arguments. Like, I understand because I felt it as well. This desire to just get away from, not off grid, but away from the fascist like societies we live in. But at the same time, I recognise that's not really the answer. I mean, every piece of technology that they warn about, like Bob said, we're the ones who buy those phones. If there was really a desire for a phone that didn't record all your conversations, blah, 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 you know, emit dangerous Wi-Fi frequencies or whatever, one of the major companies would come out with one. Because what they're after really is profit and supplying what the consumer wants. I mean, if it makes me question, for example, if they were really wanting to kill us all off with these dangerous Wi-Fi frequencies, then why would they allow such a recent explosion in technologies being sold to protect people against those? I think it was simply they didn't know that that was the case for a long time.
I agree.
And where there was no incentive, once they did, to develop a safer alternative because people were still buying them and using them. And most people were unaware. So we do have a power with our consumerism to be able to steer the development of technology. And we have to start utilizing it more.
A perfect example of that is veganism. 10 years ago, like, even you talk about vegetarian, it was still Now you look at the restaurants that have popped open that are vegan only restaurants. You've got product all over the supermarkets. Everybody, the paradigm is shifting. Everybody is trying to get into the market to meet this new sector. I think in 2014, 1% of North America was vegan, and 2017, I think 4% or 6%, 6%. It's something ridiculous. Yeah, something like in 3 years was a 600% increase in that consumer base. So what ends up happening? More and more companies will start catering to the growing market. So
yeah, it's the same over here with gluten-free and free from food. You know, there's whole aisles now in the major supermarkets selling a broad range of different free from foods. They're expensive, but at least there's variety now, and they're there.
And again, it's the people.
And people are waking up, like just learning about the elites and what they get up to, and the fact that the politicians aren't the ones in charge. You know, I didn't realise until recently, it was only in the last few decades that the information came out about how the monetary system works. Until then, the general population didn't have access to understand it. Whereas now we can. So that's opened the whole can of worms about, you know, who owns the world banks and blah, all of that. So it's only relatively recent that that information's come out, and yet look at the explosion and how much information there is about it now online. And more people, I mean, are waking up to it. Everybody I speak to in real life is aware, at least to some degree, that the monetary system is a complete scam. They just don't see an alternative. So it only takes for them to see a realistic, viable alternative for them to change their behaviour. And we can see that with cryptocurrencies. I don't think cryptocurrencies are going to be our salvation, but at least it is teaching people how, what's the word? How unreal, it's not the right word, but how unreal the money is.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, you mean the value? Yes. Well said. Yes.
And to be fair, I mean, there are so many conspiracy theories. I expect if they brought out, I don't know, a new form of coloured glass, within a very short space of time, there'd be YouTube videos telling us, oh, the colourant in that glass is designed to kill us all. Because fear sells.
There already is a video like that. There's a woman who says a certain color, I can't remember if it's blue or green, when it's transmitted through TV, and she upgraded that to monitors. And she literally tells you, if you see that color coming at you, duck out the way, because that color is killing you. So it's already been done.
Yeah.
Oh
I
well.
remember
Somebody stole my idea before I thought about it.
that.
I was going to start doing YouTube videos on that. About getting loads of subscribers.
Colors that kill.
Yeah,
But-
I know. It's like when I first got into conspiracies, you're learning about, oh, there's an obelisk in Washington or Paris. That means there's really an Egyptian cult running everything. But it's only when you really start looking into it, you see, well, our entire cultural basis stems from prior cultures, which include Egypt and Babylon and Sumer and Rome. So, of course, we're going to have this iconography.
Yes.
And just because, for example, the dove of peace used to be a symbol of victory, military victory, doesn't necessarily mean it still means the same today. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't. Maybe it is true that to the elites it means military victories, but they sell it to the public as meaning peace. Perhaps that theory is correct, but it doesn't necessarily mean it is correct just because thousands of years ago it meant military victory. I think it's about being as open-minded. It's all back to that discernment, isn't it? Not assuming that's correct, but looking further into it to make it your own mind.
Self-investigation, yes.
Which is why I intend to start reading the Old Testament and New Testament on this channel, because I've never read them, and I would like to read them to actually find out what is in there. So when I'm reading other books about religion, I'm better informed. And I also would like to read other religious texts on here as well. It's more about informing myself, but sharing my journey of discovery with the audience at the same time. Just to plug future videos.
Sounds like a good idea.
Sounds wonderful.
Just on the.
I expect I'm going to be horrified when I read the Old Testament.
Probably so.
Yeah.
They'll probably shut you down.
And there's no copyright for the Old Testament.
Yeah.
I've read part of it. I've gone through Genesis. I got to the point where God said to whoever it was, I can't remember the names,
Bill.
that to kick his slave woman out with his son, to favour his son with his wife, and then met the slave woman in the bush or something with her son and told her she was going to create a dynasty herself.
Michele.
I got to that point. By that point, I'd seen that God was sanctioning slavery and having illegitimate children and things like that. And I was like, this isn't the God that I want to worship, so I stopped.
Sanctioning or architecting it? Difference.
Both, yeah, because he was saying slavery was okay. Well, he certainly wasn't saying it wasn't okay.
The God that has worshippers are slaves. Because they don't have a choice. They have to worship and praise.
Yeah. Yeah. They were living in fear.
Down on the knees.
Yeah. I think if we're going to look at something that wasn't revealed, is the realization that we are never going to end. So more important than manifesting is if we're living in fear that if we don't behave in a particular way, we won't be rewarded in the future. Not only that future will never come, we're taking the moment that we have and ruining what we have at the same time.
I just want to mention something about worshipers. I do want servants, absolutely, but I want them to be of the electronic kind. I want a little like vacuum cleaner that will vacuum my floor without me having to actually do it. I want a little thing in the kitchen, a little robotic thing, you know, cooking my food to perfection. Yeah, electronic. I don't want people doing it. I want gizmos and gadgets. I want the first robot that's interactive that can, yeah. I could do all that stuff that I don't like to do. I'm sorry, I was just being ornery.
Well, actually, though, that's kind of like the Sumerian text. It's they were mining the gold. They got tired of mining it themselves, so we became the gadgets. They created a.
We're the perfect robot. We're self-healing, self-replicating.
I don't want them to have a soul or nothing. I mean, if they're self-aware, that would change the whole dynamics. And I guess that wouldn't be what I would want. You guys just poo-pooed on my parade.
And they're probably somebody else's. So I think that's infinite. That's in that aspect of it. Which is where you would go with seed, roots, trunk, branches, leaves, fruit, and then new seeds. I think that process is infinite. What we're calling underdeveloped are the seeds.
I didn't hear what either of you two just said, but I'm sure it was really good. I'll hear it when I listen back to this later. But I'm just gonna ask to wrap it up because I need to get some sleep.
Sure.
Well, you missed the best part.
I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I will try and sort it out so next time the connection is better for me.
I think
just for the.
Well, sorry to interrupt. Was the fact that you had a topic? We should try that on Discord, just to get topic and give opinions on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree.
Activating.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so for the viewers who watch us later, once I've had some sleep, I will put in the description links to both Magi's and Michelle's YouTube channels.
Thank you very much.
As well as an invite to Amber's Place Discord server, where you can meet us and speak to us as well. And also a link to my other YouTube channel, Amber's Place. And I thank everyone for coming, and I thank everyone for watching. And if you enjoyed our conversation and discussion, please don't forget to like and subscribe and share.
And ding the bell. Hit that
ding
bell.
The bell.
Yes.
Hit that bell, yeah.
Because we don't, there's so many that I don't get that now I had to go back through and hit the bell so that way I could see when they first come up. And even when I hit the bell, sometimes it takes up to 5 minutes. You're live and doing your thing, and 5 minutes later, mine comes through. I'm like, really? I missed, her whole monologue, and yeah.
Well,
But
it was an honor.
She tells me first that, that thank goodness for that, so I don't miss it. Sorry.
It's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was an honor being on, Mel, by your grace, sweetheart.
Good night.
Yes, thank you, Mel. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Good night.